My health is low and I could potentially tick it up, or I could simply use a single ability with this brand new weapon. Boom. One ability, nearly full health. Insane. I have not seen much information on RuneScape's newest tier 95 Scythe, Tumeken's Light. Today I'll be sharing my first impressions of this weapon thanks to Dor, who lets me borrow it. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tumeken's Light is the new tier 95 weapon dropped from Amascut the Devourer. This weapon is the first weapon in 11 years to knock the noxious Scythe of the melee AoE throne. Well, with some exceptions where Laniakia's spear does outperform the Scythe, but really, Noxious Scythe was top dog for 11 years. This thing, however, is 100% top dog. It has 12.5% more accuracy and 5.6% more damage in its base stats compared to the Noxious Scythe. I say base because you can upgrade this weapon to tier 100 using a Shard of Genesis essence. Now, the reason you want to buy this is not because of the pure base stat upgrade, no, you want to buy it because of its passive. The passive of this thing launches a 40% average ability damage projectile to 4 enemies within 6 tiles every time you kill an NPC. Additionally, if you want to, you can activate a special attack at 40% adrenaline cost, which will hit 9 enemies within a 1 tile range at 260% average ability damage. So it's more or less a lower range, weaker meteor strike. Or so it says, because in the clip on screen you can clearly see I'm still hitting those further away dummies, so I have that extended range even with the spec. This may be changed, I don't know if this is intended or not, but I would assume it's intended and the tooltip is just wrong. If you do so, additionally you'll have 30% average ability damage projectiles launched to 2 enemies every time you attack an NPC. In other words, insane area of effect potential, and if you're using things such as Soul Split, Vampirism, or a Scrimshaw Vampirism, you'll be getting some insane heals from this as well. Take this example where I'm only using Soul Split, no Aura, no Scrimshaw, and look how quickly I can heal up. The fantastic thing about these orbs is that they actually aggro enemies. They don't just hit something like a Blood Fury Drain effect does. No, they hit something and they will make that monster NPC attack you. Since aggression effects can be somewhat delayed, this is a fantastic addition for any area of effect mob farming method. This obviously includes scavenging farming methods where large clusters of low hit points mobs create favorable conditions for this weapon to thrive. Basically, any area where you have a large cluster of mobs, including places like Shattered Worlds, and you're able to knock out enemies quickly, this weapon is going to be amazing. It has fantastic synergy with the Feeling Pumped power-up and the Dragon 2H into EOF special attack, where you're deleting enemies around you, and the ones with low HP that are left over get cleared by the projectiles, in addition to giving you fat heals, making surviving higher worlds significantly easier. Now, in case you're wondering, these orbs, these projectiles, even if you're using the spec, cannot deal damage to the other Daganov Kings. They can, if minion path is open, and will reflect back damage dealt to a axe or if a mirrorback spider is alive. So despite melee weapons with extended range being fantastic for Raxor, this is a small downside to the weapon. Since we're on the topic of downsides, this weapon spec does not seem to work with some abilities that hit multiple times. For example, Dragon Claws inside an EOF, you can only see 1 orb. Strange. Shout out to Scythe Stalker for yet again being an unpaid actor in my video. I also noticed that the spec doesn't seem to work when swapping to different weapons, which would imply that this doesn't work with an EOF either. Maybe this is a bug and this will be changed, I'm not sure. It also seems that both the passive and spec do not work on the crystals during the fight with Seiryu inside the Lake Dungeon 1, which is unfortunate. It does of course work quite nicely when clearing minions or aggroing the blobs and things like that. Now let's be real, this weapon was made for Slayer and I definitely gave it a shot, and I was surprised at how good this weapon actually is in practice. To compare these two weapons, I made sure to use the exact same setup at each Slayer task, and I did a task with each to see what kind of kills per hour difference this weapon would make. It's worth noting that the actual kills per hour don't necessarily matter when comparing these two. The difference in kills per hour is what I'm looking for, and I was actually surprised at the result. So for example, the first task I'm going to be showing you, Crocodile Axe, I could definitely improve my kills per hour by using a ZGS, or Zaros Godsword special attack, in between manually, but I decided to AFK and not do anything too fancy to improve my kills per hour as to reduce the variance and differences in the two tests. So without beating around the bush, I was able to gain 30% more kills per hour when using Tumeken's Light at Crocodile Axe opposed to a Noxious Scythe. That's a remarkable improvement, especially when you consider that these creatures have 18,000 life points, so they're not exactly a chunky mob, but they aren't a low health mob either. The biggest difference is definitely thanks to the passive, but also the increased accuracy at Crocodile Axe, as I was using an Amulet of Souls, not an Essence of Finality. But I was shocked at these results. I was getting nearly 200,000 base Slayer experience per hour more when using this weapon, and I wasn't using the spec, by the way, it's just the passive and the increased damage and accuracy. 30% more kills per hour. That's a massive increase. Corrupted workers have slightly less HP, and I was able to gain 35% more kills per hour when using Tumeken's Light over a Noxious Scythe. These aren't small improvements, guys. These are major improvements to our kills per hour. I feel like this weapon's passive is contributing to that kills per hour increase in two big ways. One, the projectiles kill off mobs that would otherwise require you to target or react, and then kill them or finish them off with a single basic attack. And two, they aggro additional mobs faster than your aggression potion would. This makes this weapon fantastic for low to mid HP mobs, but it can also still improve your XP per hour or Slayer kills per hour when killing mobs with a larger health pool. Take for example Abyssal Beasts. At Abyssal Beasts, and again I was only using the passive, I did not use the spec once at all, I gained an improvement of 18% over my kills per hour using a Noxious Scythe. That's pretty juicy, despite these mobs having high HP. Moss Golems are a task I would normally do with magic, thanks to Magma Tempest, or with necromancy, because these simply surpass melee kills per hour here, when you're using a scythe. Now the big shock here is that despite their high HP, when using Tumeken's Light, I was able to gain 20% more kills per hour at Moss Golems. And the crazy thing is, at 625 kills per hour, which is the rate I obtained, I actually surpassed my kills per hour rate I noted down with my Magma Tempest testing video. Admittedly, that video is from a long time ago, and since then we've had plenty of power creeps. I'm sure I could surpass that kill rate easily, but it's still worth noting. Additionally, my kills per hour rate was pretty much on par with the kills per hour rate I noted down in this video, testing the Dragon Halberd spam with a Noxious Scythe at Moss Golem. So I decided to do the exact same thing, except with Tumeken's Light, and I gained 690 kills per hour. Nearly 700 kills per hour. That is utterly insane. This is a very powerful weapon when combined with other expensive unlocks. The improvement will definitely be different depending on what Slayer task, but I can imagine that this weapon is going to be a solid choice for any melee Slayer enjoyer. Now, I don't think many people will be using this weapons to kill Abyssal Demons, but this thing went absolute mayhem in the wilderness spot. I was able to complete a task of 290 Abyssal Demons in just shy of 6 minutes, meaning I had a kills per hour rate of 2,900 Abyssal Demons using this weapon and a cannon. Yes, this time I did use the special attack and I wasn't AFKing just using the passive, but that kills per hour rate is crazy. In terms of my thoughts on this weapon, it looks fantastic. Seeing those projectiles go off is really satisfying and a reason alone to buy this weapon. It's a super powerful weapon if your goal is to mow down a bunch of mobs. Think Slayer, Elite Dungeons, and perhaps even Shattered Worlds if you're looking to farm some Shattered Anima. Necromancy definitely outperforms melee for Slayer in terms of bang for buck, but if you have this weapon and some other expensive upgrades, I do believe it will outperform Necromancy in a chunk of places. Unfortunately, it's a little bit on the expensive side, although I would absolutely want to have one of these myself once it goes down to a more affordable price for me as an individual. So yes, if you're someone going for 200 mil Slayer or 120 Slayer, I would absolutely recommend this weapon, but if you're looking to PVM, this weapon will not be your best choice for melee opposed to other, less expensive upgrades, and overall it's definitely not enough to get me to use melee again, because melee just has so many options, too much switching, and Necromancy is so much more streamlined. And to me, magic and ranged also still seem more fun than melee is. But for mob farming, this thing is a beast. Let me know what you think about this one down in the comments below. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.